Hello everyone and welcome to another travel video. Today I'm going to go through with you my top 10 travel experiences. It's a video I've been thinking of doing for a long time, but yeah, I've just strung together my top 10, ordered them. I really wanted to do this at some point, and also you'll have to excuse me, it is 10 to 1 as I'm recording this, so I'm going to have to be a little quieter than I usually am, so I can't be like da da da. So why don't we start off this video at number 10. We're going to go with my Naples holiday in 2013. So I was 9 when I flew over to Naples in October of 2013. This was an area I knew a lot about. I was heavily into volcanoes at the time, and so we landed at Naples. We went over and stayed in this lovely town called Sorrento. On the first full day we went over to see Pompeii. Now, I recommend all of you guys to visit Pompeii. I think it is the best Roman ruins in the world. It's so well preserved. You can literally go back in time. It's incredible. And then the next day we climbed up Mount Vesuvius, and that was another experience. I actually have a rock that has come from Mount Vesuvius. Let me get that for you now. Okay, I had to rinse this thing. I've not picked this up in years and years and years, so it looks a little bit wet. Yeah, this is it. It's a very dark rock. I don't know if you can see this, I know you can't really see very well, but there's holes and stuff in it which show the volcanic nature of the rock. It's cool to know that this came from Vesuvius. When we were up at the top, I just decided to pick it up. The third day we went out to this island called Capri, and at first I was a bit skeptical about going here. My 9-year-old self was a bit like, oh, I've never heard of this place. Is it going to be worth it? And yes, it absolutely was. I found myself really enjoying this island. It's extremely enchanting with its views of these cliffs and these. It was just so unexpected to see such dramatic landscape for such a small island. There was so many cliffs, there's some stacks in the water. Now, because I went in 2013, unfortunately I didn't have any photos. Any holidays that were before July 2016, I do not have any photos of. And speaking of July 2016, the first holiday I have actually pictures of is my Montenegro holiday. That's coming in at number 9. So my mum saw the opportunity for this holiday after London Gatwick started a flight with this airport here, Tivat. So we decided we would go on a holiday that would explore both the Bay of Kotor and also the Budva region. And so we started out in the Bay of Kotor, and what a place this is. We stayed here, right by the side of the water, and these cliffs, I tell you, they were so intimidating. Just waking up, going outside and seeing these kilometre-high cliffs of the town. It was daunting, but absolutely spectacular. Got a really nice sunset photo. In the second half of the holiday, we went down to the Budva region, which was full of beautiful coastline. We stayed in these places up here, and we had a swimming pool and everything. This is where we had a thunderstorm as well. We went to this insane aqua park, which was on top of a mountain, and that's the most scenic aqua park that you can ever go to. And we went and saw Sveti Stefan, which was actually really nice. That's fun fact, that's where Novak Djokovic got married. If you like wildlife, you can visit Lake Skradin. It is a lot further than it looks. If you do love your bird watching or whatever, then I recommend checking out Lake Skradin. Coming in at number 8 is going to be my May 2011 holiday to Florida. We took advantage of a rare flight that goes from Bristol Airport all the way to Orlando Sanford. So at the time here, I was 7 years old. We stayed in this hotel here called Lake Eve Resort, and it was very expensive, I remember. We went to we did so much. We went to this place called Discovery Cove, which had loads of sea creatures and everything. It was, oh my god, it was so amazing. Next door we had SeaWorld, which was just as cool, and Aquatica, that was an aqua park, your typical aqua park. And then we obviously went to the Disneyland places. Magic Kingdom was pretty awesome. I did go on this Splash Mountain thing because I thought it looked cool. Instantly regretted it. 7-year-old me, he was crying after he got off that. We went to Epcot, which I think was it was mind-blowing, especially the fireworks show they put on at the end. Hollywood Studios was okay, I guess. I don't remember much about Hollywood Studios, but it was alright, I guess. Animal Kingdom was the last thing we went to in Disneyland. I don't remember a lot about this either, I must say. It's hard to remember, you know, when you're trying to remember something that happened 12 years ago. And we went and saw this swamp area. I don't know where that was. But one thing I do remember what we did is we went to Cape Canaveral. We went to the Kennedy Space Center, and I loved it. This is one of the reasons that I'm still interested in space today. Even though I don't remember much about it, it was still awesome. They even had some moon samples called tektite. I took them back home, and it's in my stone's drawer. Can't be bothered to get it out. It was just awesome. Everything a kid could want. Any parents watching this, take your kids to Orlando. It's epic. Now for number 7, we're going to go for something a lot more recent, and so I will have photos aplenty for this. It was my recent holiday in 2021 up to Argyll in Scotland. So we stayed in 2 places at the start. We stayed in this little town called Inveraray. This was set on the beautiful Loch. Every morning we woke up, it was completely still. It was literally a massive mirror. But the craziest thing that we were doing while we were here is exploring family history. I have very distant family relatives that come from this area. We did a lot of family history things. We went also later we went up to Loch. This was the most spectacular place. There's these mountains here that make an incredible backdrop. We were staying in this little village called Cladich. So around this area again is a lot of my very distant family history. It's always going to have a special place in my heart, this area, because wow, this is where my family came from. I could not have asked for more. A spectacular setting, learning about your distant family past. It could not be a better location. I want to go back so badly, man. For number 6, we're going to go right back to when I was 8 years old and revisit my Iceland holiday. Now, ever since my mum had told me about Iceland, I was super excited to go. Reykjavik was a really nice sized capital city. It's certainly not your London, but it's not tiny. There's certainly stuff to do in the city itself. But the thing I was most excited for is the natural stuff. So we went over to the Thingvellir National Park. Correct me if that's the wrong pronunciation, I tried my best. But it's this giant sort of split in the earth where the Eurasian and the North American plates are splitting apart. It's magnificent. So we went over then to the Geyser area, and there were so many hot springs here. I enjoyed this place so much I wanted to be there all day. Strókur erupted so much. You can watch it all day. And then we moved on even further to the Gullfoss waterfall, and this was the perfect way to end the day. Beautiful 2-tier waterfall, and it was enormous and powerful as well. Another thing we also did while we were in Iceland as well is we went to this place called the Blue Lagoon, and it's like a thermal pool. But when I went at the time, I thought it was natural. I thought it was built around something natural, but it's actually wastewater from this power plant. It's a geothermal power plant, and it feeds into here. This water is so good for you, not to drink, but for your skin. This almost completely ridded me of my eczema for like a week or 2 after we went. Honestly, if you're ever suffering with eczema, go here, man. So coming in at number 5 is going to be a very special holiday that happened in October of 2019, and it was actually a school trip all the way to New York and Washington DC. This was so cool. Being able to experience New York and Washington DC with my friends was absolutely incredible, and when we first arrived in New York we weren't that fussed on it, but then we got to experience the city a bit more and found that it was so much better than we first thought. Central Park is an absolute must. It's so quiet compared to the city. You just need to visit there if you're looking for some peace and quiet. We went up the Rockefeller Center, which was absolutely spectacular, had a whole view of the city skyline of New York. We went to the 9/11 Memorial. We even went over into Brooklyn as well, and that was completely different to Manhattan. And then on the way down to Washington DC, we stopped in Philadelphia. That was a great time. We stopped and went up the famous steps of the Philadelphia Museum of Art. We went into the Eastern State Penitentiary. That was pretty spooky. And then into Washington DC we went. Washington is a vastly different city to New York. It actually shocked me because there's no skyscrapers. I think nothing can be taller than the Capitol. We went to the Smithsonian Museum of American History, I think. I can't remember what full name of it was. Went up to the Lincoln Memorial, went to the Vietnam War Memorial, the Korean War Memorial, even went past the White House. Such an amazing time to experience that with schoolmates and best friends. Couldn't ask for it any better. Coming in at number 4 is going to be my very recent holiday to Croatia. In case you haven't watched my Croatia video, link will be in the description by the way. I will take you through what I did just in short. So we flew to Split, had a great time in Split, so much history with this Diocletian's palace. That was a lot more interesting than I thought it was going to be. Definitely recommend that. We explored the Marianne Forest, which was very close by to where we were staying, and then we ventured off into the wilderness to experience the Plitvice Jezera, or the Plitvice Lakes, and that was magical. Possibly one of my favourite places I've ever visited, possibly my favourite. And then we headed back down south to experience Krka National Park. We stayed in this little town called Skradin, took a boat over to Skradinski Buk, which was amazing. We would then later went up to this place called Roški Slap and had a view over this entire canyon, and we then explored this monastery called Visovac, and that was pretty much it. And that was the first time I had gone abroad for 3 years, and it was one of the most refreshing experiences ever. Coming in at number 3 is my most recent holiday, and it was to Austria. Now this was the first ever holiday that I said to my mum, I want to go here, let's do it. We went to so many places that I had been dying to see ever since I knew they existed. We visited Hallstatt, which was the most magical town I've ever been in. Beautifully set town on a lake surrounded by mountains. Couldn't get any more spectacular. We then went to Gosau, which was in this spectacular valley with these beautiful meadows everywhere, and we experienced Gosau Sea, which was again spectacular with these surrounding mountains. It turned into a mirror when it stopped raining. The next day we went and experienced possibly the most otherworldly thing I've ever seen, Eisriesenwelt. Now this cave is just out of this world. It's the largest ice cave in the world, and the ice formations are just incredible. It's better if you go in sort of early summertime rather than later into August or September time, because there's more ice in the early part of summer. Don't go here if you're afraid of heights. It's pretty crazy, the journey up to it. Just the entire cave is crazy. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. We then went further down south to this town called Fusch, which set up as a base for exploring the Großglockner Hochalpenstraße. I very nearly had that pronunciation correctly, and I messed up the R. Let's try that again. So we explored the Großglockner Hochalpenstraße, and we had so many incredible views despite it being very cloudly. Despite it being very cloudy, we were still able to get some incredible shots of the surrounding area. And at one point when we went over to the Pastete glacier over here, it did clear up quite a bit, and we were able to see this entire basin. I really did want to see this wall of mountains from the Edelweißspitze, but unfortunately we were not able to because the clouds would not clear. We were able to see some of it, but not all of it. We then took a beautiful journey through Zell am See and then up through into Germany, where we experienced Ramsau, which was an enchanting village with a beautiful church, and then we went to Königssee, mind-blowingly big lake and mind-blowingly beautiful as well. From Berchtesgaden we had a beautiful view of this Watzmann mountain, and then we went back into Salzburg, and Salzburg is a great city. So we went around and went into Mozart's museum. It was a beautiful cathedral as well. We even took the time to go up to Untersberg, which was a completely different experience because I thought we were going to be completely just doing city stuff while we were here, but we decided to go up a cable car, which was a crazy cable car, but that's only the second cable car I've ever been on. Salzburg was full of great things to do. I do definitely recommend this area. So lovely. Now, the top 2 holidays were so hard to separate because they are both the most incredible things that I've ever done in my entire existence. So I decided that coming in at number 2 is going to be my California-Hawaii holiday. So initially we flew into Salt Lake City, spent a night there. Just being there for a day made me want to go back. And we flew over then to Oakland, where we stayed 2 nights in the Sonoma Valley, which had some wildlife and everything. And then we took the flight over to Hawaii. It was the big island of Hawaii, luckily. This was the island I had always wanted to go to. This is the island that not a lot of people talk about, but an island that I think needs more recognition. We stayed in Kahalukiuhu. Correct me if my pronunciation's terrible, please. We explored so much of what this beautiful island has to offer. There's beaches along here, all of them are black sand beaches. We even went up to Mauna Kea. We went halfway up to about here, which is still to this day the highest elevation I've ever been on land, at about 2,800 and something meters. I do wish we could have gone to the top though, that would have been crazy. It's just unfortunate that we were a little bit skeptical about the altitude. We even stayed next to the erupting volcano of Kilauea. This entire village called Volcano was something, it was completely different to whatever I had experienced before. It was in a rainforest, but it was a lot cooler than when we were by the coast because it was such high elevation. It's just a little bit unfortunate that we couldn't go into the national park because the volcano was in a very active phase in 2018 and it was a bit dangerous. We were feeling earthquakes all the time. We did actually see the volcano erupting, except that it wasn't where we expected it to be erupting when we initially booked the holiday. It was here, Fisher 8. And we were told that the best place to view it from was this random church car park in this village called Pahua. Here it is, Sacred Heart Church Pahua. We were literally standing in this field watching this volcano erupt. I was mind blown. There were several waterfalls we visited around Hilo. What a place Hawaii is. And that's literally one of the islands on there. I want to go to all of them now. And then we flew back to San Francisco and we stayed here for 4 nights. Boy, am I glad we did that, because now San Francisco is my favorite American city. It wasn't overly hectic is what I really liked about San Francisco. You felt safe. It was such a great place. We visited Pier 39. That was a little busy, but nothing we couldn't handle. We visited a science museum. We visited Lombard Street. We went to the Golden Gate Bridge. Completely unexpected for an American city, I must say. One thing we did miss out on was Alcatraz, and that was because it's really popular and it gets fully booked months and months and months in advance. What a holiday we had. Now for the number 1 spot. The best holiday, in my opinion, that I've ever had in my life has to be my August 2017 holiday to Oregon. I didn't know a lot about what we were doing here besides seeing the total solar eclipse, the Great American Eclipse I think it's known as. But it turns out we did a hell of a lot more than just see the eclipse. We spent 4 nights in Portland and I was very impressed with this city. It was a city I knew nothing about before going. As soon as I went, I was like, I feel so safe here. It's also very green as well. It's full of greenery. The city centre isn't hectic as well. It's like San Francisco. We've actually visited Johnston Ridge Observatory, which overlooks the extremely intimidating Mount St. Helens, which obviously erupted in that extremely infamous eruption in 1980. It was so interesting learning about all the events that happened. This was named Johnston Ridge Observatory because this is the exact place someone called David Johnston was observing Mount St. Helens before it erupted in 1980. As you can see, the volcano kind of emptied onto where he was standing. Yes, these are all the marks from when it erupted in 1980. Literally landslided towards him. You can guess the result. It was one of the most intimidating sights I've ever seen. We then explored the coast of Oregon, and I think we chose possibly the best place to do this. This little town called Yahats. Excuse the pronunciation. I was very confused with the pronunciation. We stayed in this beautiful little lodge. I think it was this house here. But then we explored the coast. We went down to Thor's Well, explored Cape Perpetua. We saw the Perseids meteor shower as well, because the skies were so clear. We were far away from everything. And then I think came the most unexpected part of the entire holiday. We stayed in this village called Rocky Point, and this little house here was where we stayed. I have a lot of memories from this part of the holiday. So we went up through these massive plains to get to visit Crater Lake National Park. The most incredible place I've ever seen. So we drove up. When we summited up to the visitor centre and saw the view of the lake, all three of us, me, my mum and my dad, we all simultaneously just gasped. We did a full circuit, a full drive around of the whole lake, experienced several viewpoints, but I have to say that my favourite one was the one next to the visitor centre. It was just crazy. And then we headed back up north again into this little town called Brownsville, and it was a very cute little town, I must say. We stayed in this little house here and we experienced the solar eclipse of August the 21st, 2017 from this very location. It lasted only 50 seconds because we were on the sort of outer part of the solar eclipse line, but the 50 seconds I saw of that, it's hard to describe the emotions I was feeling. I know this sounds really cheesy. I was starstruck. No pun intended. So the most incredible holiday of my life came to an end by heading back to Portland and heading back home. And so that was my top 10 most incredible travel experiences of my life. I hope you all enjoyed this video. I enjoyed recording it as well, I must say, and I hope to do some more videos like this in the future, sort of more top 10s to do with travel. Yeah, I hope to see you all in the next video. Goodbye!